We're gonna talk San Diego housing and pricing in just a second, but did you hear? You've probably seen the reports. They're calling it one of the greatest trades, at least as far as the baseball trading deadline is concerned. And how did the Padres respond, you might be wondering? In true San Diego sports fashion, we've lost 5 in a row and counting. It's a giant Padres day today, so I always get a good crowd for that. Looking like a pretty good crowd today overall, but let's go back and get down to business. First and foremost, have housing prices dropped in San Diego? The simple answer is going to be yes. So as time goes by, more and more housing statistics are rolling in. We're getting a much more clear picture of exactly what's happening out there. So it looks like right now, housing prices peaked right around May 2022 at about $875,000 approximately. As of today, I'm recording this in August 2022, so it looks like the numbers came in for July, and the median price looks like it's going to be at or right around $835,000. That's just about a 5% drop, so that's a lot different than what we've been seeing the last couple of years. Are the prices going to continue to keep dropping?
Tell us, tell us, tell us, tell us.
That's a little bit more complicated. Let me explain. I think most people would agree there's probably 4 primary drivers in the San Diego housing market, and probably every other market in the country. You're gonna have housing supply, which is a big one. You're gonna have mortgage interest rates, which is another big factor. You're gonna have the employment and what jobs are looking like in the locale or county, San Diego County for this video. And of course, you're gonna have the overall home buyer feeling on the mood of, or how the market is going in general. Along with low interest rates, the last couple of years, this has been a big one. So let's talk about housing supply in San Diego first. So think back to like late March, April, and into May. There started to be a lot of rumblings about the housing market and how it was starting to show signs of softening. That triggered a lot of home sellers in San Diego to make the preemptive step of going to market before, well, quite frankly, before the market softened anymore. This created an influx of well-needed inventory. When I say inventory, think like the selection of homes that home buyers have to choose from. This is super interesting, but as of this week, that trend seems to be, or it looks like it might have been short-lived. Believe it or not, home inventory is starting to shrink once again, meaning there are less homes on market this week for buyers to choose from than there were last week. This sounds a lot like what's been happening over the last couple years, not what's been happening over the last couple months.
So what happens now?
You're thinking now supply and demand, right? We all know what happens when the supply starts to outpace the demand. You have, usually in most cases, you're gonna have an increase in prices. Will this trend continue? It's tough to say at this point. I watch it, like I said, on a weekly basis. It's a very difficult prediction to make. So the next factor I want to talk about, and this has had a very big impact on especially the recent market, is going to be the mortgage interest rates. This is literally probably the single biggest factor that caused the buyer euphoria to end after 2 of the strongest years probably on record for housing in the United States and San Diego. Basically, January 2022 hit and mortgage rates went up and they never looked back. So they were as high at one point as 6.28%. Historically, that is not a bad mortgage interest rate, but if you look over the last few years, especially where it was in, let's say, December 2021, you probably could have secured a mortgage in the high 2% range. So 6.28% is a big jump. And keep in mind, every 1% jump that goes up usually causes a 10% decrease in home affordability, meaning money is getting more expensive and you're getting less home when you buy your actual home. Not a super exciting prospect. And it's pretty much made San Diego a whole lot less affordable across the board. In fact, I think we're the least affordable county or city in the entire nation.
You got some good news? Could use some good news.
We saw a little bit of relief over the last few weeks. So mortgage rates definitely dropped from that 6% range. They were closer to the 5% range. I even saw one day they were in the high 4% range. That also appears to have been short-lived. As I record this video, I just checked the rates and they're hovering right around 5.4, 5.5% for the average 30-year fixed mortgage interest rate. And as I said before, even 0.5% higher, that's gonna cut into your affordability by 5%. So that makes a big difference. And here's kind of an interesting point about mortgage interest rates, and it seems counterintuitive, but the worse economic news a lot of the time that we see and that you get, the rates get a little bit better, right? People move into bonds, they move out of bonds based on economic reports. Well, now, if you've been following what's been going on in the talk of recession, or reduction, 2 quarters in a row of GDP, economists can't agree on whether in fact we are actually in a recession or not at this point. Very interesting scenario. For example, I saw 2 different economic reports this week. They looked at the same data, they looked at the same things, and they had 2 very different outcomes and conclusions. Very confusing when you're trying to predict where mortgage interest rates might be headed. So let's talk about jobs or employment in San Diego because, well, let's face it, if you don't have a job, you cannot get a mortgage. Future prospects for San Diego County, and keep in mind, we're talking about San Diego County right now, not the rest of the nation, although the jobs report for the entire nation looked pretty good a couple days ago. Think of it this way, like we just had news a couple days ago, Apple is putting a huge investment into building a huge, sizable campus here, right here in San Diego County. So that's not only gonna bring a lot of new jobs, well-paying, high-paying jobs, it's probably a sign that big tech is looking at San Diego as a pretty good place to be. Apple's planting roots here in San Diego. I'm sure they're not going to be the last big tech company to plant roots here in San Diego. If anything, they're probably going to attract more big tech companies to plant roots here in San Diego. I think as far as how that affects housing prices, I think we all know kind of where the prices are going to be based on that, and if that turns out to be a governing factor. So all in, like all recent employment data and the economic data out there seems to point out the fact that San Diego right now is inside one of the best job markets San Diego County has ever seen. So factor number 4 is going to be the overall sentiment or feeling amongst like home buyers. Like, how do you feel about buying a house right now? How do you feel about buying anything? We're dealing with inflation right now. We're dealing with a very, very difficult economy to track. Like I said before, are we in a recession? Are we not in a recession? There's a lot of different things going on. But overall, most indexes that I've seen that track this, and there's really one big one that tracks home buyer sentiment. It's going to be the Fannie Mae home purchase sentiment. It's actually fairly low. In fact, it's at such a low level, it's comparable to like 2008, 2009 when you had the big foreclosure run.
That doesn't sound good.
So home buyers are not feeling super great right now about the housing market and where things are at. There's only one way to navigate traffic at a Padres game. The air conditioning is blowing and I am still starting to sweat. So as time goes by, we saw a little bit of relief last week and the previous weeks, so mortgages look like they were dropping. Well, usually mortgage interest rates improve or they go down as Thank you so much for watching my video. If you found this content educational or entertaining, please consider subscribing. You can do that by clicking on this guy right here. If you're looking for your next video or 2, perhaps, I think you might like one of these. Have an amazing day, and I will see you on the next one.